Hi guys, this is Christina from abirdtoy.com, and today we will be talking all about O-rings, from what size you need to the best way to open, and more importantly to close them. Closing them is a big deal because if you've ever tried to open and close one, you know that it can be a little tricky to get the gap back together, this little crack here in the little split in the O-ring. If you don't get that closed back together just right, it will leave a gap and your bird can get his beak caught in there, and you don't want that. O-rings are something that you will find on practically any bird toy on the market. They are very safe when used correctly, much safer than things like S-hooks and things of that nature. You don't want to ever use an S-hook on a bird toy. O-rings come in different sizes. This is just 4 of the standard ones that we carry on our website. Here's just kind of a guideline for what size would be good for the toys that you're making. A 12 millimeter, pretty small, you can see here in my hand. These are good for cockatiels, green cheeks, parrotlets, birds of that size. The 16 millimeter are good for larger conures, kikes, senegals, etc. The 19 millimeter, you also not just go up a bigger ring, but you also get a bigger diameter, a bigger thickness of wire here. This is a 3.0 thickness, where this guy here was a 2.0, so it's a little bit thicker, which also means it's a little bit harder to open and close, but it is doable. I open these all the time, and I'll show you how. These are good for African grays, cockatoos, you know, the bigger birds. This here is a 25 millimeter. It has a 2.5 thickness, so it's not necessarily stronger than the 19 millimeter, it's just larger, but it depends on what you're using it for, what diameter you might need. So, that said, you'll want to open and close these properly. O-rings are used on toys to attach bells, anything that you would like to add to a toy, mostly add to a chain, like a bell on a chain, or maybe a pacifier or some kind of charm or a piece of leather. If you want to add that to a chain, O-rings are very helpful. They're also good for using at the top of a chain if you can't fit a C-clamp through the chain, say it won't go through the link. It's very helpful to add one of these to the top of the chain, because a C-clamp or a pear link, you know, whatever you're using, will then fit through the ring if it won't fit through the chain. So that's another use for an O-ring. Okay, opening them. Opening them can be a little tricky. It's not too bad once you practice, and I do recommend practicing. Just get one O-ring and practice until you know how to get it closed completely, because that is very important. Tools. I'm sure everybody knows what a pair of needle nose are. I don't recommend using needle nose for this particular, for opening and closing O-rings. It doesn't work. That's personal preference maybe. You might be able to use them just fine, but I have never been able to open a pair of O-rings and get them closed with needle nose. So we're not going to be using those today. There are slip joint pliers. I think that's what those are called. They do work. I've opened and closed a lot of O-rings with these pliers. Personally, I think that they are not the best tool for the job, and I am all for making things quick and easy. So today we will be using these. They are channel locks. I think because, and like I said, that's personal preference, the angle of them makes it easy to grip and open, which you will see here in a minute. But like I said, just work with a couple different kinds. Get one O-ring and practice on it. Practice with different pliers. See what works for you, because you know you can watch all the videos all day long on how to do something, but you can always find a technique that works for you and use it. I'm just here as a guideline. Okay, let's start. This is the 19 millimeter. It is a little stronger than maybe these two here, but you can see here it's not too tough. You just want to get the pliers on either side of the split. The split's right there. You get the pliers on either side, kind of at an angle, you can see here. And the biggest key is to not wrench the thing open this way. You don't ever want to pry it where the circle loses its shape. You'll never get it back together. It's terrible. And that's probably the number one question I get asked most is how you close an O-ring. And when people show me how they do it, that's usually what they're doing wrong, is they're opening it outward. Don't do that. What you want to do is you're going to take the pliers, put them where they belong, and then one hand is going to push away from you and the other hand is going to pull toward you. And all you do is you just twist your wrist a little bit like that and open it up like so. You can see it's not pried open, it's open this direction. Put whatever you want to on there, a bell, a bell and a chain, depending on what you're doing. Get what you want on there, get the pliers back in the exact same spot, and all you're going to do is pry it in the opposite direction. And you'll notice, if you can see it here, that I'm going to pry it where the ends go past each other, because when I let it go, it will spring back together where it's supposed to be. So you just take it and it'll graze each other right there and go a little bit past and let it go. And you can see there, it is perfectly closed. The biggest thing is if you can get your fingernail in there, it's not closed. If you can get your fingernail into that split, a bird can get their beak caught, and that can be a hazard. You don't want that. So as you can see here, my fingernail will not go in there. It is closed. And there you go, a closed O-ring.